David Lindsay, welcome to the Sports Management Podcast.
Marcus, thank you very much. I'm super excited to be on here, and hopefully I can give your listeners some tools and systems that they can take away straight away and implement to get a better life.
I'm sure that you will, and you do a lot of things. You're a CEO, full-time coach and trainer, keynote speaker. You have your own podcast. So please tell the listeners and the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I started off like my athletic career, sort of not knowing what I wanted to do. Like everyone out there, you just go out and you play games. I played soccer, I played t-ball, baseball, and then got into rugby league. I'm a small guy, so people thought that I wouldn't do any good with rugby league because it's a big man sport. But I actually used my size to my advantage. And the way that I did that was I knew I wasn't going to outbeat them physically, not to start off with anyway. So I trained hard. I trained my body so hard. I trained mentally, physically, and emotionally. And really, that helped me overcome my shortness in stature. And I'm not tiny, but, I'm coming up against 6'4", 6'5" monsters. And yet I could still pull them down. Unfortunately, when I was 17, I suffered a knee reconstruction, but then I still worked my way back to that. Because I couldn't use my lower body, I worked a lot on my upper body and got big and I got strong. And I got in to play semi-professional rugby league. Unfortunately, when I was 21, I suffered my second knee reconstruction. With that, I always said after the first one, if it happens again, maybe this sport isn't for me. So when it did, I stayed true to myself and I stepped away from the sport that I loved, that I've been doing since I was 12, that I'd invested so much into. But then at the shopping center, a bloke came up to me completely out of the blue and goes, "Excuse me, have you ever done arm wrestling before?" And I go, "Yeah, but what's that supposed to mean?" And he goes, "How do you go?" And I go, "Well, when I'm doing it for drinks, I don't buy drinks. I get them buying it for me." And he asked me if I'd ever thought about competing in arm wrestling. First, I thought I never even knew it as a sport, let alone a competition. But he gave me his card and I went home and sort of thought about it and went, you know what? This is something so far left field. Why not give it a go? I'm so competitive anyway. I'll give anything a go. So I did, and I did the training and I ended up being really good at it. I came up against bodybuilders. We both got the hook in and I beat them. I was on my way over to America because I'm based in Sydney, Australia. I was on my way to America, stopped off at Corfu for a mate's wedding and did some arm wrestling over there and did the first thing you learn not to do. I turned my body. Then when I turned my body, I heard a snap. And at first I thought, man, I've broken the bar. My ribs were resting on the bar. Then I realized that my arm was bent like that. I'd snapped my humerus. So we had to come straight back to Australia where I got a plate put in my arm. So you can see I have the scar along there where I got the plate put in my arm. And when I woke up after surgery, I couldn't use my arm. And that went on for a week. So I went and got a nerve conduction study where they put needles in your arms. And I asked the person who did the test, which I should never have done. I know you shouldn't ask those people. But I go, "What's the result?" And she goes, "Unfortunately, your nerves are shriveled up and dying in there. So I'm sorry, I don't know what's happened, but that's what the results are saying." So I went home and I burst into tears because my life as an athlete, as a personal trainer was gone. If I can't use my arm, how am I going to do that as a job? How am I going to do that moving forward? My life had been ripped from underneath me. But then I've got a good support network and a good family around me, and they helped support me through it. And I was down in the dumps for probably 3 days. Then I got up and went, "Now I've overcome so many obstacles in life. This is just another one for me to overcome." And eventually I got some movement back and I was so excited. But still being a relatively young bloke, I didn't let that stop me. I'm competitive to this day, but I was 22 years old and I went, what's the next adventure I can go on to? And across the road from where I did my Cert 3, Cert 4 in fitness, there was a Kung Fu place. And I went, that's it. I'm going to go up and I'm going to start doing Kung Fu. And I did Kung Fu, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, and kickboxing. And I got up to my black belt in Kung Fu, to my purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu. And I went, you know what? Let's test this out. So I went in a few Jiu-Jitsu tournaments, had a few MMA fights, a few cage fights, and loved it. And I even had a professional boxing fight. But with that, like this, I was doing that 13, 14 years ago before it really got big and it had that excitement around it. And so many people pulled out from fights. And it was actually meeting my wrestling coach along that way that changed my life, changed the direction that I was going. He goes, David, you've got so much more to offer. He goes, you're a leader here amongst the fighters. Take what you've learned over those years and bring it to the corporate world. And at first I thought, how am I going to do that? And you've given me so much good advice to start off with. I don't know what this is, but it planted a seed. And then I actually went and saw Eric Thomas, who I was listening to just before I got on this call with you. And I went to see him and I went to a day event. And earlier on in the day, I actually won a 3-day boot camp to speaking. And then from there, I went on and did a 12-month course for professional speaking. And then one thing, it's that layering effect. Same as in training, you don't start off doing 120 kilos on bench press. You start off with 60 and then the layering effect. And now that's what I do. I take my life as an athlete, as a coach, as a trainer, and I share it in the corporate world. And I want to share it far and wide with my 5 steps towards improved vitality. So that's a little rundown on who I am and what I do.
That's fantastic story, really inspiring, overcoming all the hurdles. And the last thing that you mentioned, that's how you can implement learnings from sports into the corporate world. That's super interesting and something I would like to dig a little deeper as well, because you have said that there are a clear link between fitness and workplace productivity, for example.
100%. Because if you don't have control of your body, and in fitness as well, and in sports and your mind, how are you supposed to do well? And not just well, how are you supposed to excel in your work? How are you supposed to go above and beyond with work, with your energy levels, knowing how to manipulate them so that you're firing on all cylinders? And same as in the sports world, I want your listeners to think about in a team, you have different positions requiring different skill sets and different mindsets. So it's the exact same in the corporate world. You have your front of house staff, depending on what you're doing. You have your accounts department. You have your sales, your marketing, all have different skills. And so long as they play their position exceptionally well, and everyone plays their position exceptionally well, the team will more often than not win. And that's in sports and in the business world.
But let's say, playing devil's advocate, if you're having an office job, like why do you need to be in a good physical shape and have a great fitness to increase your productivity?
Yeah, because I see all the time when I go into companies and I go for a little walk around because I like to know who I'm talking to. So I go in and you have a look around. You see the people that are big. I'm assuming that they don't train, but they're slouchy. Their posture's slouchy. Their attitude is slouchy. Their performance is slouchy. Whereas you see someone that keeps himself looking fit, they sit with a better posture. And straight away, when you stand with a better posture, walk with power, passion, and purpose, everything follows. And it's the same as like people that have a lunch break. You see people that have nutritious food, that have water, that stay hydrated. They keep performing all the way. I like to say all the way to the final whistle, whether it's football, whether it's hockey, whether it's basketball, whether it's work, competing all the way to the final bell goes and the referee calls the game off. Not having a high fat, high sugar donut, having coffee after coffee after coffee. And then you see them, they might have that spike, but they have that drop, that 3 or 4 p.m. slump where you walk around and you go, there's no productivity going on at all. And that's where the physicality and the mentality of people that train goes across to the corporate world and their performance. Yeah,
really interesting. And as you can also see so many things from someone who is in a good physical shape as yourself, for example. Then you know that you can handle time management. You can handle, you have structure in your life. you have goal settings. So many times you can see, because in order to achieve what you have achieved with, if you're talking physical, ability and your fitness, that means that you must have all these other pillars as well.
Yeah, 100%, because you can't just concentrate on one pillar. Because if I just concentrate on lifting weights, say when I was fighting, if I just concentrate on lifting weights and don't worry about my diet, don't worry about technique, don't worry about endurance, all these other things are going to pale away. They're going to fall away. But knowing that you have that end goal, knowing that I have a fight in 8 weeks' time, knowing where I am, where I'm starting, where's my weight at, where's my technique, my cardio, my strength, my durability, my resilience, how is all of that? And then being able to backtrack, or with your big goal, being able to reverse engineer it to where I currently am, and then making sure that you hit those steps and hit those hurdles along the way, so that when the cage closes, it clunks close, you're ready. You're ready to go right from the first ding, ding, ding bell, because, when you're fighting, you can't afford to waste 5 or 10 seconds before snapping into action. So what do you do in order to be ready? And it's all in preparation. And as you said, it's not just one pillar. It's all of these things all add up. It's like one piece of elastic by itself, it breaks. But you bundle them together. It can take an immense weight, and that's what the bungee cord is. It's not just one piece of elastic. It's a whole bunch of them that's bundled together, and then it stretches and it comes back. And that's what training is. Physically, mentally, emotionally, everything combined, your diet, your hydration, all leads to peak performance.
You talk about health and vitality. Can you explain the concept?
Yeah, well, that's what my main talk is, my 5 steps towards improved vitality. And that's where I said I bring it from the sporting world across to the corporate world. So I'll give everyone a quick rundown. Obviously, it's not going to be as in-depth as a normal talk, but the first one is creating routines and rituals to snap into action. Because as I said, with fighting, I can't afford to waste valuable seconds, or there's a very real possibility I could get knocked out or taken down. In football, I can't wait for 5 or 10 minutes before I wake up. But yet you see it all the time in work. People just amble into work. They clock on, they amble across, they chitter-chatter for 15, 20 minutes, sometimes even up to half an hour and beyond. And you go, what have you done? And they're just turning their computer on there. But what can you do? What systems and strategies can you implement to help you snap into action? Like we all have our mobile phones near us. And as I said just before, I was listening to Eric Thomas. So listen to motivational guys. Listen to some music, something that can pump you up, and walk with power, passion, and purpose. As I said before, you see the people that aren't healthy, they're sitting slumpy, and their attitude follows. Whereas you sit tall, you breathe better, you move better, you perform better. So create routines and rituals to snap into action. The second step is napping for peak performance. And as I said, I mentioned taking lunch break before. So many people, when I go, who had a lunch break today? So many people don't put their hand up because they see it as a badge of honor. I worked my way through lunch again. And one thing that you said that's very, very valuable is time management. Because if you've had to work your way through lunch, that says a couple of things. One, maybe you're not as good at your job as you thought. Maybe it's time to delegate, or you just have poor time management. You can't get the work done in that certain time. And I talk about the Pomodoro technique, the technique that's been scientifically proven to help retain more information and be more productive in a given time. So I talk about your mind is a muscle and you treat it as such. So what happened when you first go to a gym? You end up so sore and sore. You lift weights. You don't lift a big amount of weights, but you've stressed the muscle out. You've stressed the tendons, the ligaments, the bones, the joints. But then you let it recover, and then you come back and you're constantly stressing out and recover. Stress, recover. Your mind is a muscle. So it's about stressing it out. Stress is a good thing. Stress is required for growth. But so is the rest. So that's the second step, is nap. The third step is tap. Like from fighting, I might get caught in an arm bar. So I can fight it to a certain point and I can tap and they let go, or they can break my arm. It's a smarter option is to tap, to go back to your coaches, or in work, go to your managers, supervisors, talk about why did I get caught in that arm bar? What can I do next time to not get caught in that situation again? And bit by bit, you get better. You get that little bit better, that little bit better. And it's the same as in work, same as in sports. You get that little bit better. And over time, eventually, you're going to be able to use that as a trap to set them up. And I talk about many businesses see the importance of tapping and evolving, and equally as many do not. I talk about McDonald's, where they're constantly tapping and evolving, staying leaps and bounds ahead of their competition, but also being aware that they've also failed. They've failed on an epic scale. But whenever they fail fast, they fail forward, they tap and evolve. With what the world's been through the last 3 years, now is a perfect time to be an innovator or an early adapter, to test things out and not be scared of failing. Fail fast, you fail forward, you tap and evolve. Then the fourth step is clapping. Plain and simple, it's celebrating. We do it all the time in sports, at training, at game day, before, after, during, we're constantly celebrating. Because I want everyone to think about what happens in a team that celebrates. They become more than mates. They become like family, and they're willing to do more for people that you know, like, and trust than you are for just an associate. As I mentioned before, I'm a super competitive guy, and I don't know what it is, but in rugby league, when I was playing with my mate, if he missed a tackle, I seem to get this superhuman speed and strength and be able to cover for him, as opposed to when it's just an associate and I'm half a step slower. And then the fifth step is all about continuous, never-ending improvement with recap. We do it all the time in sports, because when I was coaching, I'd sit down on the sideline, take down notes, what worked, what didn't work. The coaching stuff, we'd watch it a second time on video. We'd all write down what we believe worked and didn't work, because as a coach, I want problems. I need problems, but we also need solutions. So we'd watch it a third time, this time with the players, and they'd get a handout of the sheets, and it opens lines of communications, not just top to bottom, but more importantly, bottom to top. Because with me as a speaker, if I'm the same speaker in 6 months as I am today, that's a waste of 6 months. If I'm the same business in 6 months as I am today, that's a waste of 6 months. If your listeners are in the same position in 6 months as they are today, that's a waste of 6 months. So it's about those little incremental improvements. And as I said, we are looking for problems. Yes, we still go back and celebrate what worked, but we want those little 1% improvement, 1%. And that is a 5 steps towards improved vitality. Snap, nap, tap, clap, and recap.
I like that. Really, really good. And I mean, I like what you said in the beginning, that a lot of these things that when you don't follow these steps that you mentioned now, you take like pride in that. You said, I work so much that I didn't have time for lunch. But actually, as you mentioned, that's something, it shows something else, that they didn't use their time management correctly, or they didn't prioritize right. Or, you know, if you said that with a tap, like as a fighter, if you say that, like, I don't tap, I'm dying in this cage. But actually this, it's not beneficial for you in the long run. It's better to tap out now, learn from it and move on.
Yeah, 100%. Because like I said, I snapped my arm wrestling because I made a silly mistake. But with fighting, I have that option of, okay, I can fight it to a certain point. I can start to get it back, but knowing when to tap. Because it's not, I'm going to be so stubborn that I'm going to get a broken arm. Because I get a broken arm, what happens? I can't train for 6 months. Or with my arm was completely paralyzed for 4 months. So I couldn't train for 10, 12 months. As opposed to if I just tapped and you learn from it. As I said, you go back to your coaches. How did I get caught in that arm bar? What can I do when I'm in there to stop it? What sort of grip can I do? And then eventually you're going to be able to stack them and get the elbow out and stop the arm bar. But knowing learning from it, because so many people see failure as a stopping point.
Mm.
Whereas I like to see failure as it's not really a failure. It's merely a stepping stone. And yes, you get tapped. Okay, good. You go back and you learn from it. Next time it's a little bit harder. Next time you're going to beat the person because you're going to be able to get out and you know exactly where you're going to be. Same as every element of life. You learn more from the losses than you do from the wins. And it's hard to get your head around. And it's that whole mentality as well, where, oh, I don't want to get uncomfortable. But as athletes, we're constantly getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And especially with wrestling, that's why I've taken so much from wrestling and from a wrestling coach and brought it across to the corporate world.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have said that, like Joe Rogan and some others. Like in mixed martial arts, for example, the wrestlers are usually the most successful ones, and there is some mentality and this hard work and training that you're going through that shapes you and your mind into this athlete, and yeah.
100%. And the key part that you said there as well was, yes, it shapes you physically. Like I've got broken ears, I've got the cauliflower ears, but it shapes you mentally. And it's a mental part that really is, so many people are lacking any mental strength, any mental resilience. But you learn it in wrestling. Because I used to come up against some big guys. Like I said, I was fighting with guys that outweighed me by 30 kilos, 40 kilos. They were like 6'3", 6'4". They were monsters. But I knew once I could get them down, I could control them. And you can feel the instant when their mind leaves them, because they might be fighting. They're underneath there. And then it gets to the point where you just feel their strength goes. And it's the same as in the corporate world. It's the same in business. It's the same in life, in sport. It's that mentality, knowing that you are going to come up against tough times, but grind it out. Yes, you may have to tap, but next time you're going to be that little bit better. You're going to have that recap at the end of what worked and what didn't work. How can we get better each and every time? It's not about just throwing your hands up, taking your bat and ball and going home, which unfortunately so many people are doing. It's learning, growing, evolving. That mentality that, yes, I've tapped. You may have won the battle, but man, I'm coming back for the war.
Yeah, love that. And the last step that you mentioned, the recap, that I feel like in sports, it's easy. Like you watch game tape, you go over, how was my fight? How was my game? How did we play defense? How did we do X, Y, Z? How do you implement this in the corporate world? Because you don't have game tape. Like you have the results and you can look back on, but sometimes I feel it's more difficult in the corporate world to recap as versus sports.
It is. And what you tend to find as well is with a recap, it only is a top level. Like they have their board meetings. They may have the AGM where they have people there. But what it's really about, it's like with sports, you're getting feedback from the players. So it's not me as a coach telling them what to do. It's me finding out errors from the ground staff. And this can be done formally, whether it's once a month. And yes, you don't have scores. You don't have a defined winner and a defined loser. Because Simon Sinek said it so brilliantly, where it's an infinite game, but yet so many people are playing a finite game. So it's about just that little bit better, finding out what conditions are better suited to that person. What can person A, B, and C do as a team to get a better result? Maybe because you look at sales, you can see I called up 50 people. From that 50 people, I got 4 sales. Okay, that's an excellent start. That's 4 more than if you hadn't have done those 50 calls. But how can you increase it to 5? What can you do? And that's where you may have a mentor or have someone alongside of you where they listen to your call and they go, have you thought about using this terminology? We have a script for a reason, and yet why did you go off script with this, this, and this? And then they might have a perfectly legitimate reason, but it's about getting feedback from the people that are on ground zero. And like I said, it can be informal. We're just having a chat with your manager or having a chat with your boss, or it can be a formal setting where you might do it, obviously not after every week because that's too time consuming, but maybe in a month you have a small team and they'll come and do it and then they'll feed it up. so that it's not just top down, but also bottom up, because then that's where the greatness happens.
Yeah, and also to follow up and see the results that you have done. And what can someone do for you mentioned you can have a mentor, but what can someone in a work environment do for themselves for the recap to follow up?
Yeah, well, that's a great thing, that so many people, they don't have the simple skill of introspection. And when I was first talking with a friend about this years and years ago, I didn't actually know what the word meant. So I had to go and Google it. And then I went, no, you know what? He's right. I was doing it. I was doing it as an athlete, but yet I wasn't doing it as a business owner. And what that is, that's to be able to sit back and reflect on, what did I do? Have I been productive for up until my lunch break? Or have I been productive in the afternoon? Or at the end of the day, what have I done? And that's where you can set goals. And like we spoke about earlier on, it's setting those long range goals and then breaking it down. So, every week you have to hit this certain number. You have to hit X. So every day you have to hit there in order to get to X. And it's to be able to step back and go, did I hit my target? If I didn't, why didn't I do it? Like, what steps did I miss out on? What can I implement myself to tomorrow? Not just hit it, but now I have to catch up a little bit as well. And if I did hit it, great. That's where you celebrate as well. You might give people around you a high five and go, you know what, Marcus? Boom, well done. That was excellent. And you'll go, David, oh, I love your work. That phone call that you did was just awesome. And then you feed off that energy as well. But you go, what specifically was it about it that worked? And then what can I do tomorrow, again, to be that little bit better? It's sitting back, being able to take 5 minutes after a call and write down what worked, what didn't work. What can I implement with that list of what didn't work? What can I eliminate, or what can I change? So, it's introspection is such a big part. With lifting weights, we can see, okay, so often people go, oh, I did 10 reps. And go, I saw you do that 10 reps. Why didn't you go to 12? Why didn't you go to 15? Because they have a number in their head where it's just set at 10. And that's where with hitting those KPIs, you might have a number in your head of you want to hit 10. If you've hit 10, what's stopping you from going and excelling? What's stopping you from going forward? Because once you've hit that magical barrier, don't just rack the weights. Keep pushing until you really start to struggle. And that's where the growth is.
So that ties into a little bit of goal setting as well. So would you say that it's better to put call it realistic goal and overachieve? Or do you want to put your goals, high? And then, because Elon Musk usually says that he sets a goal like, we need to have this done maybe he thought it would take a year. He says 6 months. And then if you take 9 months, it's 3 months better than he thought from the start. But then you still didn't meet that goal. So psychologically, how would you say that you should build your goals on time?
Shoot massive, shoot big, shoot extraordinary. Because Les Brown said it as well, it's unfortunate that people don't fail because they have these audacious goals and they miss. They fail because they set their bar so low and they hit. And you see that all the time. People set a bar so low and they're content with that. So whether something takes 6 months or whether something takes 12 months, we have a great way of filling up time. So if we have something that say if we really knuckle down and will take 3 hours, if in our mind we go, okay, it's going to take 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, that thing that should only take 3 hours will magically morph into that 8 or 10 hours. So set these big, audacious goals, then mark it back. So you still have to stretch, because as I mentioned before, people think of stress as a bad thing, but it's not. Stress plus recovery, and that's where the growth is. So if you're never testing yourself, how do you know how far you can really push?
Yeah.
And that's a mindset that so many people don't have. They go, let's aim the bar down here. And then they give themselves a pat on the back when they hit it. And you go, in reality, they could have gone so much more, but they're content. They're happy with just going in, clocking on, sitting in their cubicle, not making any difference. That's just not for me. That's not who I am. That's not what I'm about. That's not what I coach people about either. So set massive goals and you'll be surprised how many of them you can hit.
Yeah. And I feel like in an office environment, you will have these people that they clock in, clock out, and then you will have those that go above and beyond and everything in between. So in an office environment, maybe in, elite sports is different, but in an office, that's like in the workplace, that's definitely the case.
Yeah. And that's as well what I speak about with having a culture where, I'm playing music when I come in. I have my headphones on and I'm bopping in. I come in with such positive energy.
Yes.
Then the person next to you, they go, man, David, what are you on? What can I have some of what you're having? And then 1 becomes 2, becomes 4, becomes 8. Then it gets to that tipping point where the majority of people are going to be in like that. And that's what you want. You want to go towards a positive as opposed to towards a negative. And when you have that positive environment, people will want to be there. People will want to excel because they're going to want to have that public recognition, which that all comes from CLAP, which is celebrating. Having public recognition for the work that they've put in, for the results that they've gotten, and for the time, effort, and dedication they put into something.
Yeah, and I mean your energy is undeniable. I haven't met you before this talk, and off the bat, like when we signed on here, I mean, I have felt your positive energy, and I hope and I'm sure that the listeners and the viewers are getting that as well. So
thank you.
I hope that they can, take not only all the, your steps and pillars and everything, but also to take this positive energy that you really.
Yeah, well, it is. And that's what it's all about, because it is contagious, and it is by listening. It is by being a leader, by being there, by being people's support. And I support them in a positive way. And yes, there are times when you have to have real conversations and knowing when to have the real conversations, but it's still have that positive, because it's who I am. I'm not bunging it on. I'm not, once I hit stop, no, I just can't do it, because I love what I do. I love getting out and speaking, and I love getting out and changing as many people's lives as possible. And that, I believe, is my gift as well. So it's working to my strengths.
And you said belief, and you have said that belief is the first step towards greatness. What do you mean with that?
Yeah, well, because first of all, dreaming really is, because you have those dreams, but then like you can do courses, you can lift weights, but if you don't believe that you're going to be able to make it, you don't believe it, you're going to come to that first obstacle and you're going to go, see, I proved myself right. I couldn't do it. As opposed to that belief, like I've got massive dreams. I've got massive goals for my speaking. And I truly believe that I'm going to make it, which is why I've been speaking for the last 6 or 7 years, which is why I'm still pushing through, why I'm still grinding, because I believe that I can make a difference. Obstacles are merely learning points. Like I said, with my 5 steps towards improved vitality, I tap, I step back, I go to coaches. That's for the little ones. Then we celebrate when we overcome it. Then I have that recap, the continuous never-ending improvement in every talk I do, in every podcast I do, because I'm sorry, but in 6 months' time, I'm going to be an even better guest. That's just it. That's my goal, is to get better each and every time in everything I do, even to be a better parent, to be a better husband, to be a better family member and friend.
And that's just good news for me, because that means that I need to invite you back again in 6 months or more.
You certainly will. And I'll have even bigger and better stories as well. And I'll have more energy to share with your listeners as well.
That's amazing. Something else that I've read is that you're talking about high-performing habits. I guess that it ties into a lot of things we have already spoken about, but just pinpoint some high-performance habits.
Yeah, so we've got the 3 pillars to high performance, where what that is, that encompasses, so creating your own unique roadmap. And what I say with that, so that it's goal setting. It's a different way of looking at it. But not so many people, a few people, it's unfortunate that it isn't so many people know where they want to be. So by setting your own unique roadmap, not only do you know where you want to be, but you know where you're starting from. Because think about if I'm on a roadmap and I want to get to this point up in the corner, yet I'm coming from this angle. I'd go at a different point, whereas if I would come at it from here. So it's no point knowing where you want to go and not knowing where your starting point is. So, and that takes into account the introspection that I spoke about before. Surrounding yourself with people, with coaches that will be real, that will be honest with you and go, David, here, and here needs a lot of work. Here and here, you're excelling, but knowing specifically where you are. So that's the first pillar. And we go into a lot of detail with creating your own unique roadmap, knowing obstacles that are along the way, knowing different people that you're going to have on your team. Because say if I was playing basketball, I wouldn't have people my height unless I was Spud Webb or Bugsy Mogues, these little guys that are dunking it. But I'd want a big team. Then if for some reason at halftime we change from basketball to football, I'd go, okay, you guys have played your part. Well done. Cheer us on. We're going to continue on with a different team. So it's about knowing who you need, when you need them, why you need them. So creating a team in order to get you from here to there. And in business, very, very, very rarely, I'm not going to say never, but very rarely is the best way from here straight to there. You're always going to overcome obstacles. It's going to be a winding track. And that leads into the second pillar, which is follow the footpath. Whatever you want to do, someone has been there, done that. So do what Bruce Lee famously said, take what works and discard what doesn't. And then, so go with that. And obviously the deeper you go with that, the quicker you can speed things up. Then the third pillar is my 5 steps towards improved vitality, which we've already spoken about. Because you can have all of these tools, yet if you're just slumpy, your performance is going to be slumpy. You're going to give up halfway. And then what we do have after that, we have a few supporting pillars, and that is mindset. So having the right mindset, having the belief that that if you put in the time, effort, and dedication, you're going to get there. So that's a mindset, having a growth mindset. Then after that, it's having confidence in yourself. Because imagine if I was to go, Marcus, I have this fantastic thing and you're really going to achieve well. You're going to slam the door in my face. Whereas if I go, Marcus, I've got this fantastic course that you're going to benefit from. I've used it with thousands of clients. They've got fantastic results and you're going to do the exact same. All we have to do is sign up here. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. So having the confidence to put yourself out there, having the confidence in your product, having the confidence in yourself. And then the third supporting structure is execute. Because what's the point in having all of these tools ready if you never throw the ball? If you never take that shot, you're never going to hit the target. So execution. So that's the 3 pillars to high performance and the supporting structures along with it. So creating your own unique roadmap, following the footpath, 5 steps towards improved vitality, and then the supporting structures, mindset, confidence, and execution.
Really inspiring. And the good thing for me is that this is recorded, so I will go back to this and listen again because there's so much to take from this. And same for the listeners. I hope and the viewers hope they take notes and implement some of this into their lives as well.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why I'm out here doing this, to try and get this message far and wide, to try and help as many people as they can, whether it's in their business. Because that course as well, we do have a personal one, but it's designed for middle management as well, because they get stressed from the top down and also from the bottom up. So if you can give these 3 pillars to high performance to middle managers, you'll get some fantastic results that you never thought possible, because I know that this stuff works. I've done it before and I'm going to do it again. And even with the course, we keep getting better. We keep delivering it better and we get better results each and every time.
So if, the people who are listening now, they want to learn more, they want to hear you speak, they want to sign up for different courses, where do they get in contact with you best?
Yeah, the best place is LinkedIn. I'm most active on there. I do probably 3 videos a week on that, on little tips that people can do each and every day. Because as I mentioned before, it's simple things like using music, listening to things, the power of posture is fantastic, but I do little tips each and every day. One, for example, that I did a couple of days ago was when people go, I'm born ready. And I think I might have said it with you earlier on when you go, are you ready for this? No, I held myself back because I thought about it. I wasn't born ready. Believe it or not, when I was at school, I was shy. But yeah, it's training. It's all the work that gets put in the background. It's all the work that gets done when no one's around, which is why I have the confidence in that. But yeah, so find me on LinkedIn. I'm also active on, well, I'm not so much active on Instagram and also Facebook, but also feel free to email me if you're interested in doing a course or getting me out to speak, because I'm looking specifically at going on a tour around the States. So looking at that early to mid next year. But I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone, whether they want to learn more about the 5 steps towards improved vitality, whether they want to learn more about the 3 pillars to high performance, to our courses. Feel free to email me at David@davidlindsay, lindsay.com.au. And I'd love to connect with people because you never know where one conversation may lead.
That's for sure. And that's if there is something I've learned from this podcast, that's that, talking to someone and learnings, and that connects you to another person or another something. And we just continue to evolve.
100%. And that's what we're all about. Like you interview people, and not only do you learn, but it's a great gift as well by sharing it with so many other people. And I appreciate that you've had me on today to be able to share my message with you and with your listeners.
Of course, I'm happy to have you. And if there is something I usually ask if there's something I haven't asked you yet that you want to mention.
No, well, I'm happy with what I've said. Like, the most important thing is really about the 5 steps towards improved vitality, because as I said, especially what we've been through the last 3 years, that's when we need to increase our vitality, our vim, vigor, passion for what we do. Because if you do that, you raise morale, productivity, and therefore profitability within the business. Or in sporting team, you raise morale, productivity, and performance in your sporting team. So that's really the main message that I wanted to get across. And also, of course, the 3 pillars to high performance. And that people feel free to get in contact with me, because I'm an open book. I love to get my message far and wide.
I hope that they do. And you said that you're having some speaking engagements in the United States, or you hope to have. And I can see that most of the listeners on this podcast are just from there. So hopefully they will connect with you and be able to see some of your speeches as well.
Certainly. And also, just before we shoot off, there's so many positives that did come about through COVID. And one of them is that I've been doing talks all around the world from the comfort of home. Yes, they're not as good as being there live in person, but I can still bring the energy. I can still bring the vitality and still share my 5 steps online as well. So that's another option for everyone out there if they do want me to speak at a conference or speak to their company or just speak in general.
Yeah. And I mean, this podcast is a proof of that. You have spread the energy. You have come in here full force and given us all that you have. And I'm truly grateful, and I really appreciate it. Before we sign off, the last question that I ask everyone is, if you could choose the next guest on this podcast, who do you think I should speak with?
Oh, there's so many out there, but 2 main ones. Well, 3. I've got 3. David Goggins. I love his stuff. So him, Jocko Willing.
Yes.
So I love his stuff. And Eric Thomas. I just love his stuff. I was listening to him before we started, and it's because of him that I really thought about getting into speaking. And going to his event really laid that platform, laid that foundation. And just, those 3 guys, there we go. So that's something for you to stretch to reach to and get them.
For sure. I know that.
When you do, tell them that I said hello.
I will do for sure. And I know that I think David Goggins have done like 2 podcasts in the last, 5 years. But as you said, you put your goals high, and that's definitely a goal for me. So I hope that at some point in time we'll make that happen. And then I will say that David Lindsay says hi.
There we go. And I'm more than happy to come back in 6-12 months' time. Keep my number on dial.
Will do. David Lindsay, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Sports Management Podcast.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, Marcus.
Thank you.